Hare works.
Should.
We can
Everything
test sound,
should. We assume it works. That is the, for this year's Vaisheshika Prabhu. Those who are familiar with Vaisheshika Prabhu is basically the ISKCON inspiration. I mean, there are many inspirations, but the most prominent at the moment inspiration in the world of ISKCON in terms of Sankirtan, book distribution, prasad distribution, Harinam, etc. And that's his catchphrase, is assume it can be done. Assume it can be done. Don't say, maybe it can be done, or perhaps we can do it. No, assume it can be done, it can be done. Impossible, Prabhupada says, is a word in a fool's dictionary. We can say we're fools, so maybe it is a word in our dictionary, but ultimately nothing is impossible, because Krishna is the ultimate doer. Yes, I can't find what I was looking for anyway, so may as well play. I'm going to read something, but I can't find it. So, at the moment, and for your information, there's another 3 days to go. I just found out this morning of the Live to Give campaign. We didn't take full advantage. It started in September. We didn't know until November. Started in September and finishes on January the 7th. So today's the 5th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So the Live to Give campaign is a campaign, it's a modern thing, campaign. It's a campaign to try to distribute more Bhagavad Gitas, as many as we can. And the campaign, you'll hear about that later, but anyway, there's 3 days to go. So today we'll be celebrating the 2021 Ramathon Marathon. Or the Ramathon Marathon. I can't remember who came up with the phrase Ramathon.
Bruno.
Yeah, Bruno came up with the phrase. Call it Ramathon. So it's the Ramathon Marathon. Maybe next year we'll publicize it officially, because that only happened partway through the marathon. The Ramathon Marathon. Mara is death. Rama is life. So marathon, I don't know if originally it meant, an arduous activity leading to death. You exhaust yourself so much. Or it could be that which conquers death. And we experienced that with any service. Anyone here will attest to that. Huh? Any service, cooking for the days for like 24 hours non-stop, you'll experience you're in another world. It's not the material world. You're traveling towards somehow. And Harinam, sometimes we've seen devotees go on and on and on. Service at Janmashtami. It was a normal thing, especially if you were in the kitchen department. I was in the kitchen department during several Janmashtamis in the manor. And honestly, the devotees in the kitchen department would go 48 to 72 hours with no sleep. No sleep. And not feel tired. Totally different platform of consciousness. And of course, Prabhupada said that about the book marathon. He said this is not possible for an ordinary person. You are going days and days with no sleep and hardly any eating. He said this is samadhi. This is samadhi. Absorbed in one's service. It could be any service. Any service. And it's unifying. When we work together for festivals, for the service of the deity, putting the attention on the service, not on our own egos, etc. I remember a beautiful example of this in Australia. This is about 20 years ago. I was visiting a temple there called New Gokul. It's a farm near Sydney. Perhaps someone here has been to New Gokul. I don't think so. He may have been there. I'm not sure for sure if he went there. It's not New Govardhan, it's a different farm. He may have been. Anyway, he probably went there with me. New Gokul is a large farm, about 250 hectares. Same like here, mostly forest. Anyway, I was there one time. I came as a visiting, and we were there on Sunday for the Sunday feast. Not so many people were coming those days. Way up in the middle of nowhere, like we are here. Indians were not coming. They're coming now. Many are coming. Not so far from Sydney. 2 hours and a half. And they, one in the middle of the class, I was giving class, and one devotee came in the temple and said, help, help, there's an emergency. And he was a devotee looking after the cows. He came in the temple and he said, one of the cows has fallen into the dam. A dam, if you don't know it, in this sense, is a body of water which you normally keep for, irrigation or whatever it is. It depends on the quality of the water. It could be even for drinking water, it's good. But it's a body of water which is reserved because rain comes at certain times and it doesn't come. So you keep the water when it rains in this kind of reservoir dam. One of the cows has fallen in and got stuck in the dam. So he said, I can't get it out, it's stuck. So we stopped the class, and it was more or less the end of the class actually anyway. And it was prasadam time. And everyone's Sunday feast. Everybody knows what happens here on the Sunday feast. To get someone to serve is not even easy sometimes. To queue up is easy, even if you have to wait an hour because there's only one person serving. Sometimes, and it's not so bad now, but sometimes we've seen that I'd rather do that than serve. But service. So prasad being served. Oh no, what a time for this to happen. Why couldn't they wait until after the feast? Or another day? Why did the cow have to? But this is Krishna's arrangement, not say, allowed it to happen. So 2 or 3 of us decided to forfeit the feast and to go up with this devotee to see it. Maybe it's quite easy. So we went up there, but it wasn't quite easy. The cow was stuck in the mud in the dam and up to its neck, literally just its head above the water. And was freezing cold water. It was cold. So we kind of, tried to start, but we couldn't get very far. Trying to get the cow out of the water. Kalindi, her name was. And then after prasad, after half an hour, other few devotees came up, and eventually we realized this is no joke. And we managed to get, the farm was so undeveloped that we couldn't find the key for the tractor. We used the tractor somehow or another. And we couldn't open the gates to get to everything was an obstacle. What we were doing, nobody knew what we were doing. The actual fireman was away, just a reserve person in there, and it was a real, shambles. Eventually, we brought up, some devotees brought some mattresses and blankets and straw and everything up, climbing over fences and things. We eventually got up to the top. We got those things. The tractor we couldn't use because it was couldn't find the key. And anyway, we managed eventually with a lot of effort, and it was cold, in that lake, pulling and pushing and lifting, and maybe 20 of us were up there. We eventually got the cow out of the lake, and she was more than half dead. We got her onto the mattresses and covered her in blankets and straw, and we know what to do. Somebody had bright-eyed person. We called the vet. The vet somehow turned up, believe it or not, it was Sunday afternoon. The vet turned up and gave her an injection, said she won't live long unless she can get her temperature back up again. She's gone so low in temperature. I think COVID, I'm not sure, but they lose temperature, and she was just about alive. So he said, you've got to get her into a warm place, because it was evening, 6, 7 o'clock now, and it was dark and it was really cold, and how to get her down. Eventually, somehow or another, somebody found the key for the tractor. The tractor ploughed its way up to a gate, and we managed to, then how to get her down. I mean, nobody knew what to do. We've got these big tarpaulins and mats and everything, and we tried to, 20 devotees holding the mat and the tractor, pull slowly down the hill, down to the barn, a few hundred meters away into the barn, and then putting her on, straws and mats and everything. And then the vet said we had to massage the cow. Yeah, we had to massage her very fast. So we made a shift system. By now it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. We made a shift system, and 6 devotees at a time. But it was quite amazing that all night long we massaged, and nobody left. Nobody. It was like a marathon. It was same in any service you do. When we're focused on the goal, the objective. The secret is every service to focus on what are we doing it? What is the goal? What is the goal of this marathon? What is the goal of our service? What is the goal of being here? It's not just to do what we like. It's not even to achieve results on the plane that we're on. It's not even, it may be, it's secondary, you could say, to be a good cook, to be a good pujari, to be a good gardener. Oh, good, if we use those. But the goal is to please Krishna. So it was like Krishna appeared in this sense. In the sense that Sankirtan is the form of Krishna. And this cow, Kalindi, also in a sense took on like a form of Krishna in a sense, bringing everyone together. Now there were no considerations of gender, no considerations of hierarchy, sannyasi, brahmachari, grihasta, guest. Everyone was equal. Everyone was on an equal level. Because there was one goal, solidly fixed on one. All these designations are only to help us to reach that goal. They're of no value unless they help us reach the goal. Numbers, names, genders, races, religions are useless unless they help us to actually reach that focused goal of pleasing Krishna. We exist only for that purpose, to please Krishna. So this example with Kalindi the cow was quite a profound example, which I experienced in the middle of it all. And how we were all massaging all night long, all together. Some were able to do more. They were stronger. It didn't make any difference. Children were there. Old people. Everyone. Together. It brought unity. Unity in diversity. This is Prabhupada, one of Prabhupada's main, you could say, lines of instruction for all of us. How to create unity in diversity. Ultimately, there's only one way. In the world around us, we may see many different policies, efforts, United Nations, this thing, that thing, but it does not work because it's missing the point. It's missing the point of existence for the pleasure of Krishna. Doing whatever we've been given by Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. not for our pleasure, for Krishna's pleasure. This is how unity becomes effective in diversity is inevitable. Even within our own hearts there's diversity, what to speak amongst the individuals. We have diversity in our own hearts. The unity comes when more and closer we get to Krishna, serving or being conscious of pleasing Krishna. Otherwise we see every situation from our own perspective and someone else sees it from a different perspective. This is the neophyte stage. Therefore there is arguing, misunderstanding, envy, jealousy, all these various things come in. Lust, so many inimical factors become, very prominent. Disturbances, disturbing people's minds, etc., and disturbing Krishna also. So the more we actually focus and become, just like with Kalindi, everyone working together, hands over hands, under hands, everything, legs, arms, everything going. All night long, focus, one purpose, one pointedness. The other that one purpose, focus, is devotional service. Prabhupada said the secret, practically, or the inspiration of his preaching mission was this point of that one pointed focus of serving the order of his spiritual master, of pleasing Krishna. The method of pleasing Krishna is that, to serve the order of the spiritual master. So Sankirtan, various forms, deity worship is also Sankirtan, if we're in that mood, cooking, cleaning, managing, farming, driving, you name it. Anything done with the purpose to focus for Krishna is a form of Sankirtan. But today we're focusing on a specific aspect of Sankirtan, full engagement in glorifying Krishna, that activity for the propagation of Krishna consciousness, which was emphasized by Srila Prabhupada more prominently than anything else in terms of numerically speaking. It doesn't mean quality, it means in terms of the essential necessity of the activity of book distribution or of congregational spreading of the Sankirtan or the holy name, Prashadam, and so on. And particularly during this month of December, it's become more or less a ISKCON, part of the ISKCON calendar in most places. So this is the month where temples try to dedicate as much energy as they can to distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. I remember the first marathon we took place. Actually, in England we were a bit late starters. We were late starters. We didn't start the marathon in England really till 75. In America they started earlier. And practically we had a little one in 74, but nothing to talk about. 75 was the main one. And what we were doing, actually I was here in New Mayapur because it was the installation of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai in December, whatever, 19th, or I don't know, can't remember the date exactly, but when they were installed here. We were here for that marathon. It was a week-long marathon, and we were, many of us were here, about 8 of us came over. But the marathon went on in England, and it really was a marathon. I mean, they were doing Back to Godhead magazines. We didn't have many books, I don't know if we had many books at that moment. Back to Godhead, and they were going down the metro, metro called Underground in London, for like 12 to 14 hours a day down the metro. On the tube, we call it the tube, selling things, and we were copying the American system. With a bucket, a big box of bag of Back to Godhead strapped on your back, 200 magazines or something. And a bucket, and just some spiel, the Devodas and Mita was heading up. Something, just throw a donation in, and you can give a magazine, coming out and into the next one. And by the time you got out, the security guards were on the train, and you were across the platform it was like a battlefield going on down there. They would come back at night black, literally covered in, because so dirty you stand it all day long down there.
All the sweet.
But I mean, I wasn't there. I just heard all the stories. It was so ecstatic. It's just like absorbed in distributing. I mean, they would do many of us with like 1,000 BTGs in a day. You know, it's so ecstatic. You know, you can't imagine. It's just, and it's not. What's going on here? So, it's not working.
No.
Oh.
So you have to talk louder.
We have to choose between the computer or the
Oh,
microphone.
well, the computer is very quiet also. Quieter than me. Okay, no, boys, let it be. Let the computer have its day.
Because I've been told there was...
Everything has its day. Okay, no problem. So then, but this is experience that everyone gets. You know, when you, even if you just do one magazine. My first ever day on magazine distribution in Oxford Street in London. I was a guest. I was a hippie. Hair down to my waist.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I'm out on the street. I just wanted to be a part of it. So they're distributing, doing Harinam, and a few of us doing BDGs, so I wanted to do BDGs. We would stand there like newspaper salesmen. Back to Godhead, get you back to Godhead here, back to Godhead. You can imagine how many people stopped.
Oh my God.
Well, you believe it or not, I was the top distributor that afternoon.
Wow.
I did 3 magazines.
Wow, very well.
10 pence a magazine. Right. I was very proud. Wow. I've already told the story of my first book I ever distributed, but I think you've already heard that one. Yeah, it was like that. Nobody knew what to do. If you did a few books, a few magazines, that was 71. That was wonderful. Amazing. So, you know, fantastic. Somebody took a magazine. Somebody bought a book. Incredible. Now, devotees are going out and maybe hopefully doing a few more than 1 or 2 magazines. We'll find out later. I'm not sure what they did yet in the marathon. Don't know yet, do we? No. Secret. It's a top secret, right? Maybe they distributed 10 or 20 books this year in the Prabhupada Marathon. Who knows? Maybe more even. Who knows? Huge marathon. Maybe it was just a dream. It's not a reality at all. All these figures you've been seeing here were just a joke. We're just all illusion. Actually, we were just sleeping, eating and sleeping. Yeah, just sending spores. Nothing really happening at all.
Let's see this very more book.
A bit of Photoshop work, you know, Joel and are very good at Photoshop work. A bit of Photoshop work there. Yeah, but we had a good time anyway. Holiday in Paris. Okay, so today, we all know that this year we had quite a few interesting, what would we say, events alongside in that month period. Or thereabouts. Quite a few unusual events took place. Huh? Some of them very shocking. Some of them very challenging, almost enough to give up, and so on and so forth, which we'll hear about a little more later on. But some and other, all of you, and the devotees here also, I must say, made a sterling effort to support and participate in this year's Ramadan Marathon, and many devotees from around the country, young, old, male, female, different groups. It brings unity in diversity. Huh? Sankirtan is the Lord Chaitanya's process of unity and diversity. How can you say to anyone you can't participate? How can you say that? You can. But it doesn't seem to be the mood of our acharyas. It doesn't seem to be the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone can participate in Sankirtan. This is the unique aspect of this form of Sankirtan. Everyone can be a part. Some activities you have to have a certain specific qualification to do. But Harinam Sankirtan, the book distribution, we've had stories from last year I remember Revati Prabhu unfortunately was not really able to join us this year. But last year how he took, was it Revati or was it you? There was one beggar, we call them tramps in England, street dweller, who was wanting some money. And one of the devotees said, you want some money, take this book, you give me so much money, you keep the rest. He said something like that. And the tramp sold the books, a couple of books, and paid more than the cost of the books. It may not be the normal way of, you could say, of performing Sankirtan, but it's a trick to get people involved, yeah? So many ways. Passing it on. Many times you see that, and I think one story will come up later where that happened in this year's marathon also. Okay, so what we want to do today is to now start a little PowerPoint presentation. Are we ready?
Yes.
I don't know if maybe you close that window now, that one over there. It doesn't really serve any purpose. That one may stay open for the sewing of the garland. But that one over there serves no purpose other than lighting. We do like light, we're not against light. But when Krishna is present, Krishna serves Sam, Maha, and Adhikara. What is he? He is the light, he is the more than light. So that may a little bit clearer, I don't know. Now this, sorry, but Rupa Raghunath Gauranga came and I worked on it. A lot of it was last minute, as usual. We had a lot to do the last 4 days. We had to count all the books, do all the stock taking, get all the books out of Paris, bring them all down here, count them all, put them all back in the right place, count every book, readjust all the invoices, do all the new invoicing, count all the Lakshmi. There was at least 50 euros we had to count. 50 bags of coins. I think the total weight of about 60 kilos of coins. And many of them were these nice little red ones, browny red ones. But we're giving that task to Namacharya when he goes to the cleric. About 10 kilos of those. Okay. We didn't follow. We counted them originally in the original count, but not in the bagging. So I don't know, large quantities of coins were bagged up yesterday, and all the various, everything, all the scores, everything had to be calculated. A lot of administrative work since we came back. All finished now, plus the marathon account, as close as we could get, is completed. And we'll mention a little bit more about that later, but that's basically it. And some of it, like with the presentation of the PowerPoint, they worked on it yesterday. Obviously, we can improve it next time. So we're now going to start. We can start. Let's just go on roll one first. I think the one you want to do first, okay? So now we're going to start with the Prabhupada Marathon 2021.
Vivo!
France, Yatra, and friends. Interesting friends and enemies also, you could put there. Even enemies took part. Quite a lot of enemies took part. We engaged our enemies. Hare Krishna. There's passion, lust, so many things we can be. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says they can be engaged. Only envy is the problem. All the others can be engaged. Lust, greed, anger, and so on and so forth. They can be engaged in various ways. So friends and enemies. Prabhupada Marathon. We're going to start with this was just before the marathon started, and it was one of those extraordinary things which doesn't happen very often, and was a big breakthrough, I would say, in book distribution and preaching in France. And it speaks for itself, and I hope it works. What do we have to do to make it? Will it work automatically if I press the button or not?
Go to the next slide and then you press the space.
Press the space. Press any one of the buttons. And here's the next slide. Whoops. So you can see here, it's not a very good, elongated for some reason. I do not know why. I hope they're not all going to be like that. But I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. But you may recognize the person on the right or not.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, no.
John.
The
Judd.
guy on the left is known as Tony something or another. He's quite a well-known person on Facebook or something. Or what is it? Huh?
TikTok.
And I have no idea. I've only heard about it. I've never have any idea what it actually is. It's called TikTok is some kind of clock. Talking of those TikTok time machine. Anyway, it's some modern social media channel. And Mr. Tony is a very famous person. Apparently he's got 1.5 million followers. And here he is in the centre near Châtelet of Paris. He happened to be walking through the city centre with his partner who's filming. And he saw our friend on the right, Prabhu, what's his name? Judd.
Judd.
Back to Judd and Alison. First they met Alison actually, but Alison is very kind of shy, she's not much of a speaker like that. So she kind of pointed to Judd, and then Tony interviewed Judd. And this is a part of that interview. And if you speak French, you're going to have a great time listening to this. If you don't, you'll still have a great time. If it works. And we hope it works. Okay, we're going to have to start that again. I don't know how we're going to start that again.
Is the sound on your computer?
Let's see. It's on. Yeah, it's on.
No.
Put it up here. Okay, maybe it'll work now then. So let's see what happens.
Yes.
Very quiet.
C'est quoi ces livres que tu as dans la main? Vraiment géniaux qui viennent d'Inde, ils ont 5000 ans. Lui il a 5157, c'est la Bhagavad Gita. C'est le livre pour être toujours heureux dans la vie. Tous les plus grands l'ont lu, Schopenhauer, Tolstoï, Mandela, Gandhi. Il est exceptionnel et il a changé ma vie. Est-ce que tu penses que je pourrais offrir ça à ma future copine? Le livre de tout le monde. Ce livre, on est 7 ans, 77, c'est pour tout le monde, c'est comme le Cluedo. C'est vraiment merveilleux, des petites illustrations pour les petits en plus. Et t'es pas obligé de lire dans l'ordre. C'est des petits recueils d'aphorismes. Ou que tu crois que c'est comme un gâteau, c'est toujours bon. J'ai accosté Tony parce qu'il est super beau, que je l'aime et qu'il est trop stylé, abonnez-vous.
Hare Krishna. There's a little bit more, but that's more or less it. Very short snip. That went on to his whatever page on TikTok, and it had an amazing
The
effect
expression.
on TikTok. Apparently, about 800,000 people watched it.
Oh, this is the main point of the
Yeah, it's pretty far out. Huh? Well, this was just before the marathon, but it set the scene for the marathon, you could say, book distribution. But it had another effect in the sense that Jad became then overwhelmed with mail orders for Bhagavad Gitas. And I think he said it sold a few hundred Gitas online as a result of this. Not only that, but BLS said, I was on the phone to BLS just after this. I didn't tell them anything about it. They said, it's really great right now. So many people are ordering Bhagavad Gita in fact all of a sudden. And I said, it's probably because of this TikToker. So this man, whoever he is, I don't know what he does or doesn't, but he's done a great service for the Chitanya Sankirtan movement. And he chose the right person. I think no one could speak better than Jad on this subject in a way for the public anyway. He's really a good speaker and a very enthusiastic book distributor. But most of December he was spent on mail orders, so he would have distributed a lot more books on the street if he'd done that. But it's a very important program to show that this can be done. It's a matter of finding out how it can be done, not if it can be done. It can be done. It's just a matter of how. We assume it can be done. And it's just a matter of finding out how different ways of distributing. And the good thing about this is that people order it. You don't order them, they order you. Give me the book. Right? When you're on the street, it's like you've got to somehow twist their arms, twist them, somehow to convince them to take something they have no concept whatsoever of getting, and maybe not want it, but somehow or other they take it. But this is different, and they pay good money. I mean, they're not just paying, whatever. Maha. So this is another channel. So all glories back to Jad for doing what he did and doing what he's doing, and Alison also. Yeah.
We have to say that in the street many people know Bhagavad Gita by TikTok.
There you go. I course, because they're out, I didn't find because I can speak French and bring it up, but there, devotees, the Sankirtan party met many people saying, "Oh, I saw this book on TikTok."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it must be a good book. It was on TikTok. And on TikTok must be really top. TikTok. TikTok, we say. TikTok. TikTok is TikTok. So, Abani. Jai Haribo!
I remember that
If we'd
day.
been more on the ball, we would have had a sequence of photos beginning maybe when the books arrived here in the lorry. When they arrived here, I think the day you left they arrived, was it? Or you left before they arrived?
We left before.
They left before. The books arrived on the first day of the marathon, I think.
Mhm.
And you left the day before.
No. They was here when Big Lorry came because they loved the books and
You took some in your car, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were here, but then they left straight away, more or less, something
Yes.
like that.
They left next morning and
The
then
day before something, the books arrived.
We arrived with it.
6,000 Bhagavad Gitas arrived in a lorry, big lorry from Radhadesh. They arrived just on the 11th hour at the last moment before the marathon, and then the books were, they took some in their vehicle, Dayanitai Prabhu, Joe, Ivan, 3 of you? Three. Then they drove up to Paris to their accommodation. The night before, we had nowhere to stay in Paris.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't know where we were going to stay. We didn't even know if we were going to Paris, right? The morning you left was when we found out you had somewhere to stay. And I'll mention it now in case we forget it. But yeah, so they didn't know where they were going. We didn't know where they were going either. We know where they were going. We may have gone to Lyon instead. They were going to Paris, but they were going to an apartment, if you want to call it an apartment. A hotel, almost as good as the Hilton Hotel in the ghetto of Lagos or something. It's a place called Chateau Rouge, if you know that place. It's Barbès. It's the housing area of Barbès. Whoops. Not that bad. Well, it was. It's Barbès. It's the, anyway, it's a place where police hesitate to walk. And they were having some, what would you call it? I can't even call it an apartment. It was what do you call it? A box. It converted. It was like a box in the middle of the courtyard. Converted with some, pieces of wood in between. Yeah, what do you call it? Partitions. Just simple partition. And the rooms were triangular. We went there for morning program a few times. You could just about 4 or 5 of us squeeze into one of these triangles. And they stayed there for the whole month. For that alone, they deserve medals. Okay. And there were workers all day long banging and crashing outside, building something. You had to kind of go through this. It was like, it reminded me of Philippines, where 20 people stay in one room. Literally, whole family with 10 kids stay in one little wooden room, bits and pieces of wood. And you come out and you kind of go on to another level, and you go down to another level, you open up a funny book, and there's like garbage everywhere, and buckets, and machinery, and...
It was a good arrangement for not taking any day off.
Yes. They were glad to get out as early as they could.
One day that he could là tu parles de là.
It was such a scene. And outside the door, in English we say you walk the gauntlet.
Ah oui.
You know what that term means? You say it in French.
Cannot translate that in French.
At your risk, at your risk.
Le pont-levis quand tu marches entre la vie et la mort, quoi, c'est tu marches sur une lame de rasoir.
And they only had one key, so if you forgot the key, you were, or somebody didn't come and open the door for you, you were really in trouble because you could get surrounded by all kinds of strange beings, strange entities in different states of consciousness. Anyway, say no more. It was a unique situation, and I thought, and in one sense I felt so bad about that. But we'll see if we can do better next year. The ladies, Ramlila, is she here?
No, she's cooking.
Ramlila is cooking, my God, she's still on the mountain. Ramlila and Fatima is here. Stayed with Mandakini for 10 days. So they were staying in the spiritual world for 10 days.
Wow.
Literally.
And you were in the Bowery.
Huh?
They stayed in
And the boys were in the Bowery, yeah, they were living much, much worse than the Bowery. I know, 10 times, 100 times worse than the Bowery. Then they had to move after 10 days because Mandakini's daughter got COVID, she had to go and look after her. So they moved into another apartment in Jules Joffrin, quite a nice area. They stayed there for 10 days. Then they moved into Jiva Pran Prabhu's apartment. They stayed there for 10 days. He gave his apartment free of charge for them to stay in. And we'll hear more about that later on. And I stayed in a luxury apartment. Yeah. The funny thing was, my luxury apartment was cheaper than there.
Wow.
I stayed 5 days less time there, it's true, but otherwise it was cheaper. And we had to pay no water or electricity bills. They had to pay water and electricity. Unbelievable. We had another apartment which they cancelled the evening before we were supposed to move in, and another one they cancelled on the morning when we were supposed to move in. That's where we ended up with the moving. But Samanada Krishna had his plans. They had fun. We had a lot of fun there too, right? A lot of fun, a different kind of fun. Yeah. Krishna had his plans. Anyway, so that happened, and this is the next scene. They've arrived. The books have arrived the next day. Bruno drove the blue Govinda van together with Vishnu Jha. Early morning they left here before Mangalarti, and we're all waiting there at the storeroom in Paris where we stored all the books. The storeroom, as you can see from this picture a little bit, why are the pictures coming out like this? This is not correct.
This is because the projector is very close to the screen, so they have to.
This is not a good arrangement.
Yeah.
That means we're not getting a proper projection.
Just a bit.
We're all squashed. Anyway, it's a nice long picture. Here is a short. Well, it's like a hall of mirrors. If ever you've been in a hall of mirrors, you look at the mirror and you suddenly become short and fat, and then the next one you're tall and thin. You know? The next one your legs are like massive, and your head's like a little pin on top of the body. You know? Okay, so here we go. So this is the first slide, and this you can see there's a group of us there. There's Joe and Iman and Danitai and myself. Next to a big pile, there's 3,000 Bhagavad Gitas piled up there. which came up in the truck with Bruno, and many other books too. We can't see they're on this side of the room. And we had to break the wall down to get in there. We broke the wall down. We didn't tell the owner. I hope they don't know. And it's got a nice chandelier in there. You can see it's a very opulent. Electricity doesn't work.
With the
No
wires
water.
stick there.
This is the story. Actually, this is Petit Pavel and Peter's new apartment, which he's renovating. And he let us store the books there for the marathon. And those three devotees on the left there, I think that's Sophie, Jagaturini, and is it Sue Davy? Small, I can't see. What is this?
Research language.
To change the
Oh,
frame.
change the size. But the width of this slide is, the image is so small up there. To make it wider, it can't go much wider because it's so small already. It's like square almost. You have to change something here because you're not going to be able to get a very good result. So anyway, I think it's Sue Davy. Those three ladies, 8 o'clock in the morning, we all assembled at the warehouse, about 12 of us, including 6 or 7 yoga lyric devotees, including the three ladies.
Wow.
And they all helped to unload the books. Actually, the men, the yoga lyric men, all had to leave to go to work. They left their wives behind to do all the work. They were carrying books, and I think the ladies were carrying almost as much as the men, right? Correct? They were working like anything, those ladies. For about an hour carrying up 5,000 books or more up the stairs.
I was also the one.
Huh?
I was also the one that, doing the books.
You were.
Yeah, helping.
Mr. John was also helping. John! That's why we took you up there, boy. We go to a
I
holiday.
was there the whole time.
You
Just
needed a strong
running.
man, a man who could really carry books. So we took
Vishnujan was
Mr. John.
running all the time.
Running.
Running out of
He was
breath.
like a dynamite carrying those books. Marathon man. And before the truck, Bruno was a bit delayed in traffic, so Namacharya was running up and down the street distributing books outside. He did his first marathon during that period. And he was planning to spend the whole marathon in Paris distributing books. But Krishna had another plan. Another marathon took place here.
Heat system marathon.
Cold marathon. And working on the heating for weeks on end. And that was your tapasya. They had their tapasya in Bangladesh, and you had many of you tapas here with the heating not working. And that was very austere. Very austere. I'm sure you get lots of blessings for continuing in your service despite the inconveniences. So that's the first day, and blissfully seeing all these Bhagavad Gitas come. We stored a few in another place, but most 95% are here. So on to the next slide. My goodness, what is that?
Prashadam. Prashadam time.
There we go. This is a joyful occasion at the beginning of the day. Right, Prabhu? Here are the troops, our team with Gauranga Prema, Joel, Dankai, Ivan. Is that right?
Yeah.
And on the left is Fatima and who else is it? Anastasia. Anastasia is one of the devotees, the yoga lyric devotees, who was very active during this marathon. So she joined us quite often for Prashadam. So this is in Petit Pablo's apartment?
Yeah.
Petit Pablo's present apartment, not the one he's moving into. So this is amazing. Now, this marathon wasn't just about distributing books. There's a lot to a marathon rather than just book distribution. We've heard a little bit about things behind the scenes. But the main thing this year, I would say, behind the scenes, because we couldn't stay in the temple this year, we had to rent these apartments. The logistics for prashadam, for laundry, and getting together was very complicated compared to what we're used to anyway. And the yoga devotees from Yoga Lyric, not only did they find the apartments, they personally found them, and they actually helped contribute towards the rent significantly. And as did Adi Guru Prabhu, significantly contribute towards the rent. About half of it was covered by those two devotees, both by Adi Guru and the Yoga Lyric devotees, for the total rents of all the apartments together. We had to rent 4 apartments altogether. But they provided, the Yoga Lyric devotees, every morning they provided breakfast. Full breakfast. And they had a system where every day a different household would invite the devotees to breakfast. So one day Pradeep, one day Jeevapan, one day Shayananda, one day Atmarama, one day Rohini, I think Angela also one day. Different devotees were hosting the devotees for breakfast. And then they would also prepare full lunch, which would be taken and put into flasks. Each devotee would have a nice hot flask, and that would be for their lunch. So that would be taken out for lunch on the street. So that was the Yoga Lyric devotees were providing that. They were also, I don't know about the ladies, but they were doing much of the laundry also, and many other things in the background, different services they were rendering, as well as themselves coming out on books whenever they could. So that is, you could say, in one sense, if there's any success, is basically the foundation of the success of the marathon this year. They're putting themselves out so much to facilitate the Sankirtan, which Prabhupada said in many ways is even more pleasing than actually distributing, when you serve those who are distributing books. So this is the devotees in Pratik's apartment taking breakfast prasadam. And now there's not necessarily a chronological order to this, but there's a thematic order. And there they are, the 3 musketeers. On the street. I wouldn't have a clue where they are. I'm saying that because tongue in lip or something. We know exactly where they are because they went practically every day to the same place. Either there or in Châtelet, back and forth across the road like that. Pompidou, Châtelet, Châtelet, Pompidou, Pompidou. Where are you? Pompidou, Châtelet, Châtelet, Pompidou. Back and forth.
One day, Saint-Michel.
Yeah, one day. First day. No, I wasn't there, so I didn't see it. First day was Châtelet, was Saint-Michel, but only one day. Although the ladies, they went to Saint-Michel or around that area sometimes, other places, before coming to Pompidou, Châtelet. They always end up in Pompidou, Châtelet as well. It's a special place. Rath Yatra ends up there also, as you may know.
Oh, in Pompidou.
In Châtelet, in that square there, Fontaine, whatever it's called. It's not an ordinary place, you know. There's some special energy there. Everyone comes there. It's like the crossroads of Paris, you know. And so the devotees are right in the heart of it. Whenever they start, for many hours every day, running and distributing books. And there they are, the 3 musketeers. And they're all with us today, I think. Who is Joe? Is he here today?
Yeah, he's here.
Where is he? Haribo Joe.
Isolating.
Thank you. They've changed the rules now in France for the isolation period. They reduced it considerably, so they don't know what to do with it. Nobody knows what's going on with it. At least we don't know. So there, next one. Anything to say on that, gentlemen? Any comments? It's just a happy scene of togetherness. There's another one almost identical. They've got their hands up. Surrendering. And we were fortunate in the first week to be joined by a British lion.
That's a serious picture.
Prowl. He's on the march, he's looking out for a victim. He's a hungry man.
Oh my God, so
Be
serious.
careful.
With this book.
Adi Guru Prabhu. He spent 5 days or so with us on Sankirtan in Pompidou, Châtelet. We also went, what was that other road called? We went there one day.
I don't know the name.
What's the name of the station? We went there. Where's a long road with restaurants and a big busy road at the top. There's a something road, something like food or something. And there's a metro station, famous one at the top of the thing. We do the music fest there or whatever it is. He liked that. He went there one day. But he joined us for 5 ecstatic days on book distribution. He came for a business meeting which was cancelled, so we ended up going on a 5-day book marathon with us. And believe me, now just for your sake, he went out with the brahmacharis. He went back to England after 5 or 6 days, and he wrote to me. He said, "Wow," he said, "it's so tough. So tough. So I just went out for half an hour in London. He did 8 Bhagavad Gitas and collected £50, in half an hour. 30
Wow, 30 pounds. Oh, 50
pounds. £50 and 8 Gitas in 30 minutes. He said, what you're going through in France is so tough compared to here. So tough. It's like, you get into the mood a little bit after a while. It's tough compared to here. It's tough. Most countries are a breeze. Even I was out in Germany a few years ago speaking a word of German. It was so easy distributing books. So easy. Compared to, I don't know. But it's so. Acharya, one of our top book distributors a few years ago, and I took him to England one time. He did fairly well. I said, "It's good. You find it good here?" He said, "No." I said, "Why not?" I said, "You've done a lot more books than you do in England." He said, "No, I don't like it. It's too easy." I much prefer France. You have to surrender there. You have to surrender. You got to practice austerity, tolerance, whatever. But it's Krishna's grace, and He's reciprocating. The Lord is definitely reciprocating in wonderful ways. So there's our British lion, Adi Guru Prabhu, on the prowl, and there he is. Now he looks happy. He's found the devotees, and he's ready for a blissful day of Sankirtan in Pompidou, Châtelet. Yeah, for the Pompidou there, that most gorgeous architectural building in the whole world. I can't imagine who's beside that building.
The man on the left is from Mumbai.
Mumbai, an Indian gentleman.
Yeah, every day he's hearing the Bhagavatam class from the brahmacharis in Chopra.
Oh, wow, wonderful. I think you mentioned that. I wondered who it was, and that's him. Great fortune. There are people scattered all over France who are actually devotees. They haven't really connected yet, by the way. They're tuned into Bombay or Delhi or something. You haven't realized they're in France yet. Probably this as well. And there he is again. Now he's happily distributing books to a very fortunate couple. Adi Guru Bhuti Bhagavatam 1 and 2, or maybe 1, 2. We didn't have 1. We were giving everyone part 2 because we had no 1s left. Everyone got part 2. And we don't know. Now this is a scene. Now maybe those on there can explain what's going on here.
Oh,
You see it?
We were unloading the books from the truck and people approached us.
That's when you arrived, first of all.
Yeah.
They've just arrived in their apartment, or their whatever it is, and they're just unloading, and there's already interested people coming up to them maybe for books. Yeah, there you go. There they are. Poulet.
Chicken.
Huh? Chickens, yeah, chickens. You can, there's not a street for chickens, I can tell you that. If you're a real chicken, your life is in danger. And if your consciousness is like that of a chicken, you better get out of there quick. Because there's no place for chicken-like consciousness. Protect your body?
It's a slang language to say the policeman.
Well, I don't know if the police ever go down there, that area. I know maybe a little bit weary about going around there. The beauty about it was, they were, in English we say, a stone's throw. You know this term? A stone's throw from the metro. So if you go fast enough, you could get to the metro without any incident. Getting down the metro was a challenge. Tell us about that with the books.
Yeah, because we had very big boxes of
Giant-sized boxes with like 70 or 80 liters in each box.
Wow.
we needed 2 persons for each trolley